Welcome to the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community Podcast. I'm your host, Patrice Tsague. I'm here today with a good friend, Shannon Royce, our fearless leader with CEA. Shannon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Patrice.
Now, people might say, what is CEA? Christian Employee Association. You're based out of Washington, D.C. I love your mission statement. And I love what you do. So let's start there, because today we are going to talk about religious freedom in the marketplace. We're going to talk about this upcoming forum that we're hosting, and that you are having. It's powered by CEA, because all the guests are your people, except for one guy who hopefully he'll be your people after it's all done.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us, what is CEA and why CEA?
Yes, thank you, Patrice. The Christian Employers Alliance is an alliance of Christian-owned businesses. We serve nonprofit organizations. 20% of our members are nonprofit, and we serve for-profit businesses. So 80% of our members are for-profit businesses. As you mentioned, our mission is to unite, equip, and represent Christian-owned businesses to protect religious freedom, the subject of our conversation today, and to provide the opportunity for employees, businesses, and communities to flourish. So the first part of our mission statement is our Matthew 5 call as believers to be salt and light. And the second part of our mission statement is our John 10:10 calling to live our lives abundantly and to help other people to do the same.
Oh man, I love it. So it sounds like the Christian Employers Association really was really founded based on the First Amendment.
Yes,
Would
sir.
you agree?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And I'm so glad you raised that, because our religious freedom, the Declaration of Independence said that our rights are endowed by our Creator. Our religious freedom is called inalienable because it doesn't come from government. Government simply recognizes it. We have our religious freedom because of our relationship with God. It's a universal right. Unfortunately, many of your international friends who work with Nehemiah Project might not see the freedom of religion that we have here in the United States. But in our Constitution, we are guaranteed the right of free exercise of our religion. That means we can act, we can speak, we can practice our faith in everyday life, in our homes, in our businesses, in our communities, in our churches, and not just privately in our churches or our homes. We have the right to live it out in everyday life, in everything that we do.
Now, Shannon, question: before CEA, who did this for? I'm about to write a piece, by the which I'm going to say I'm writing a piece called "He Took on the Federal Government and Won." You know where I'm going, and that
Yes,
piece
sir.
is going out this week.
Yes, sir.
I'm going back to the Obama administration.
Yes, sir.
Hobby Lobby takes on the federal government. There was no CEA back then.
Correct. CEA was not even a vision at that point. Our friends at Hobby Lobby, the Green family, as you mentioned, they took on the federal government because the Obama administration came out with a regulation that said that businesses had to pay for abortion and abortion-inducing drugs in their healthcare policies, or be in violation of what they call discrimination laws, right? And so if you didn't cover abortion and abortion-inducing drugs, then you had these huge fines per person per day that would just sink a business. And our friends at Hobby Lobby took that case all the way to the Supreme Court, because they argued that to have to pay for abortion and abortion-inducing drugs violated their conscience, violated their religious expression of their faith, and that they were not willing to do it. Mr. Green was willing to literally lose his business because of his deep conviction that he could not, in good conscience before God, pay for those things. So
Wow.
they won that case. And then what did the Obama administration do? They came in and said, oh, okay, we'll just create what we're going to call an accommodation so that you don't have to pay for it, but we'll sort of do a backdoor roundabout way that this will still be covered. And CEA was born in that moment because a small group of employers said, we're not doing that. We are not in any way, direct or indirect, going to pay for abortion or abortion inducing drugs in our healthcare. So they filed a lawsuit in 2016. We won that lawsuit in May of 2019, and it said all present and future members of Christian Employers Alliance are exempt from having to cover abortion or abortion inducing drugs in their health care.
Wow.
So that
So,
was the
Audrey,
birth of CEA, that
that is
conviction.
that is incredible. So Hobby Lobby, $5 billion company, takes on a $25 trillion government
Yes.
under a regime who didn't care about religious
Right.
freedom,
And won.
right? And win.
And won. They won.
But the challenge, though, is had it been any other company that didn't have their
Right.
size, they wouldn't have survived.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so now, if it happens today, it would not be a company taking on the government; it'll be you taking on the government
That's exactly
on
right.
behalf
On
of
behalf
us,
of our,
the membership.
exactly. That's exactly right. So
That
one of
is
the most
powerful.
important things that CEA provides to our members is that that we will take on those challenging, difficult issues. We're in the midst of a lawsuit right now dealing with transgender services in healthcare plans. In this case, the Biden administration says that healthcare plans have to pay for transgender transition, all the way from the drugs through a surgical change of a person's body. And that again is a violation of Christian conviction and conscience. And so CEA filed a lawsuit. We have a preliminary injunction in our favor on that lawsuit that says that our members, present or future, do not have to pay for transgender services in their health care. The good news about this is because of this legal principle called associational standing,
Mm.
we as the association can stand in on behalf of our members, and our members don't have to be exposed. And in this
Ah,
season of cancel culture, that's kind of a big deal.
it is a big deal. Wow. So we're talking to Shannon Royce with the Christian Employee Association. By the way, Shannon, I'm here today at the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community Center in the Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, my audience, this is my first time doing a podcast from here because we just opened this particular facility.
Nice.
So I want to make sure our audience who are watching us via Facebook and YouTube know where I am because they say, where is he today? I'm actually in the physical center. We are a member of CEA, not only because we believe in your mission, but also because we promote kingdom companies. We
Yes.
train and coach companies to live out their faith in the marketplace.
Yes.
And we recognize the fact that any of our members and our clients could be, and we encourage them to become members of CEA. And you blessed us each year to do podcasts with us, provide education to our members,
Absolutely.
and so that we might be informed and equipped. You have a conference every year. I want to talk about that, and then we're going to get into the discussion. Again, I'm talking to Shannon Royce with the Christian Land Association. We're going to have a forum coming up where we're going to be talking about religious freedom in the marketplace. Today is a
Mhm.
nice teaser to help you be equipped and understand the importance of religious freedom in the marketplace. So each year you have this conference. I've attended 2 years in a row. It's a permanent part of my schedule. Can't miss it. I have to tell you, I loved Hobby Lobby last year, but I love
Mhm.
Washington, D.C. So I just hope you keep it in Washington, D.C. all the time. But that's
Yes,
just me.
sir. We are scheduled again for this fall, September 28th and 29th, at Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C.
It is fitting because if we're going to talk about your mission, I think being in the nation's capital for that
Yes,
is powerful.
right.
Tell us about that conference. Why is it important? I've gone there since you started it. Don't want to miss it. Great information, great networking.
Mm.
You you are an amazing conferencier, young lady. You're incredible.
Thank you. I'm bossy. It takes bossy to manage one of those kind of conferences with a room full of leaders.
So what's the conference and why is it important to your mission to carry out your mission?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Patrice, for giving me the opportunity to share about this. We do a national conference each year. I've been here 2 years. So we started out in November of 21 and did our first conference, our second conference last fall. The point of the conference really is several fold. We want to be providing educational information to our employers to know how to navigate the challenges they're facing. So our theme this year was navigating uncharted waters, appointed for the journey. And the whole point of that was that, yeah, things are kind of tough right now. There is a lot of uncertainty and volatility and complexity and ambiguity in the market that Christian employers are confronting. They need to have the education to know how to deal with the various challenges they're facing. We also want it to be an opportunity for them to be exposed to some of the key leaders from our nation and from the community that addresses these issues. So we had members of Congress, we had a senator, we had various litigators who are involved in various legal cases, and then other experts to address concerns to our Christian business owners. And then finally, we want it to be an opportunity for folks like you to be able to just sit shoulder to shoulder with another business person and have that personal conversation, connect with each other, be supported by each other, be able to share concerns that you might have in a personal way. You know, Zoom is amazing, and this technology that we use is really terrific, but it's not the same as sitting side by side with somebody, having a bite of lunch, being able to share a personal connection. So that's
Wow.
really the point. We have not settled on our theme for this year. I have something in mind at this point, but haven't come to a real clarity that that's God's plan for this year. So we're still praying over our theme, but we have settled our dates, September 28th and 29th in Washington, D.C.
Listen, you should listen to this. This is going to be on our blog at Nehemiah Project, at nehemiahealy.com. We're going to have the dates there. We're going to have the link to Shannon's website. I highly encourage you to attend this conference. Make it an annual event that you attend because as entrepreneurs and marketplace leaders, you need a network of resources that shows you up,
Yes,
right? Nehemiah Project shows you in terms of education, coaching, and access to financing.
right,
Well, we don't handle protecting your religious right and advocating for you in Washington, D.C.
right,
That's where Shannon and her team comes in, right? They're based out of Washington, D.C. just for that fact.
right.
Now, Shannon, our international audience may be listening now and is saying, what about us? So tell us a bit about, I know that your scope is US based, but your education is not limited just to the US. So
Right.
can international business benefit from being inspired to, encouraged to, and equipped by what you do, whether the conference or some of your blog information resources?
Well, I certainly hope so. Patrice, you know that our immediate service is to companies in the United States, but many of those companies also have international um,
That's right.
pods or resources or connections. And so my hope would be that, yes, we would be a source of encouragement to Christians around the world, Christian business people around the world. I would hope also that the information that we share about things like religious freedom would raise important questions for friends around the world and maybe give them ideas of what they could do in their own communities and in their own governments that might help them be more effective, to just work in partnership with them.
I love it. Well, so let's now get into our topic, Susan. So, my first question, it may be obvious, but not necessarily. Uh, to those who are watching and listening, what is religious freedom,
Mm,
and how does it impact the marketplace? We heard the Hobby Lobby example,
sure.
but what is it, and how does it impact the marketplace?
Sure. No, that's a great question. I think when you think of religious freedom, we have to go back to the U.S. Constitution. And the United States Constitution guarantees the free exercise of religion. That is the language that's used in the Constitution. And that has been interpreted to mean that you have the right to live, to speak, to act on your religious convictions in everyday life. So, how does it affect the marketplace? It means that as a Christian business owner, that you can live out your faith in the way that you operate your business, in the way that you interact with your employees, in the way that you care for your employees. Obviously, religious freedom applies to everyone. So we're not encouraging. Many of our business owners have some have only Christian employees just because of the nature of their business. But many of our employers, like Hobby Lobby, they have a very diverse workforce. They probably have people from of every faith and no faith at all. So if you want to have a Bible study, you can invite people to the Bible study. But if someone is a Jew or a Hindu or some other faith and they'd rather not participate, then you give them an accommodation that they don't have to participate. This is allowing religious freedom for all people. But the critical thing for Christian employers to understand is you can still do the Bible study, you can still do the prayer. You just need to do it in a way that's respectful of people of all faiths.
Ah, that's a good point. Again, we're talking to Shannon Royce, the executive director, president of the Christian Alliance Association, Christian Employer Alliance, sorry.
Mhm.
And we're going to have a forum that we are hosting together. The date of the forum is on January the 25th. It's a forum on Zoom. You're welcome to be a part. Right now, as I share, go to nehemiahecommunity.com, register. There's a link even there on this particular podcast. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Google, on YouTube, wherever you are, you can just click,
Mhm.
go there, register. We still have space for you. And this is going to talk about religious freedom in the marketplace, how to equip you to navigate the uncertainty.
Yes.
Shannon, you had at your conference, what really intrigued me was the talk of your friend, Ernest,
Nathan
Nathan Estrich.
Eskrith. Yes.
He'll be sharing at the, I mean, as you talk about this, so he was operating, leading a company in a secular space, Procter and
Yes.
Gamble, and
Exactly.
he demonstrated how that worked there. So this is true not just for Christian company,
Correct.
but also true for Christian executives. Would you
Correct.
agree?
Oh, absolutely. One of the critical things that came out of the Hobby Lobby decision is that it made clear that religious freedom applies to both individuals. So the individual CEO of a secular company, the individual business owner in a Christian company, but it also applies to the business itself. So a
Mm.
business or nonprofit organization is considered a person, if you will, with the quote tweet around it, for purposes of religious freedom. You can be an individual or you can be a business, and you're deemed a person for those protections under the First Amendment. So they apply to the business as well as the individual.
So today, with this cancel culture,
Mm,
so it seems like cancel culture crosses the line in some cases.
right.
So how do we deal with that? Because there's this social wave
Yes.
of trying to, in some cases, do some things that, okay, some might say sometimes it is issues that are appropriately should be addressed. Over taking advantage of women, things like that. But then it now, so Christians find themselves now, Christian companies find
Right.
themselves, Christian individuals find themselves caught up in this cancel culture. So
Yes.
tell me, what's the line between cancel culture and religious freedom? How do we kind of mimic that line?
That's a really great question, Patrice. I think, the word tells us that we should be wise as serpents, but gentle as doves. And it's really critical for Christian business owners to be very discerning. One of the reasons CEA is so important is that we can provide those protections and go on the tip of the spear on some of these hard issues that might make you be canceled, like the transgender ideology. Look, we're seeing people canceled who aren't even conservative Christians. The writer of the Harry Potter series has been canceled because she came out against transgender policies, saying that you should treat transgender people who identify as transgender kindly, but that doesn't mean you have to change all of your policies to accommodate them. Well, even she got canceled, right?
Wow.
So it's not just Christians that this is happening to. So for Christian business owners, I would say if you join CEA, we can provide the protections for you on issues like abortion and transgender policy without you having to be on the tip of the spear and be exposed publicly. But there are some issues where you're just going to have to be very discerning about how you manage them, how publicly you speak out about them. One of the main things we're working on this year in 2023 is to help our members understand the exposure that they may have for some of their contractors or businesses that serve them. For instance, I just learned last week that there's a group of a half a dozen banks that are now doing this net zero policy. So if you don't agree with this extremist environmental perspective, then your bank could cancel you. And Patrice, what would you do if suddenly you were notified today that effective on Tuesday, you're no longer going to be able to have banking services with your bank? How are you going to meet payroll? How are you going to pay your bills? So we're trying to expose our members to the threats that are there, like with the banking industry. You'd see the same thing perhaps with your online services, your web provider, that kind of thing. And we're working with a group called 1792 Exchange, and they have a database of information where you can go look up your various vendors and see, are they likely to cancel you? And if they are, what's your backup plan? What's your plan B if you get the phone call from your bank or the letter from your bank? That's some of what CEA is focused on doing in 2023.
I love it. Again, we're talking to Shannon Royce, the CEO of Christian Employee Alliance. They protect your religious freedom, especially in the marketplace.
Mhm.
And we're talking because we have a forum coming up on January the 25th. And this forum is designed to help you and equip you and inspire you to be able to walk out your business while being mindful of preserving your religious freedom. Some of the guests include
Yes.
Al Caperna, the CEO of and chairman of CMC
Mhm.
Group, Nathan Estru, formerly president and CEO of Procter & Gamble's subsidiary Influx, Pastor Carlos Duran, president of the National Hispanic Pastors Alliance, and of
Mhm.
course, our very own Shannon Royce. Shannon, so let me ask you, can you give, other than Hobby Lobby, are there other examples you can provide of instances where in the marketplace, whether you're members or not, where there was a religious freedom implication or
Yes.
impact?
Yes. Well, actually, two immediately come to mind, Patrice. On Tuesday of next week, we are hosting a webinar with Victoria Cobb, who is the president of the Family Foundation in Richmond, Virginia. So it's the Family Policy Council for Virginia. They had a donor event set up in December on a Wednesday evening at a local restaurant. And 90 minutes before their event, they received a phone call canceling their event
Wow.
because the business, this restaurant said, we don't agree with your stand on abortion and on homosexuality and gender identity and on religious freedom. So we're canceling you because we don't want our employees to be uncomfortable in serving you. Well, imagine 90 minutes before a major event that you've planned, you've had all the details worked out, all of your guests are going there, and you've been canceled. So that just happened last month. Another organization, I won't mention the name, you would be familiar with it if I did, a nonprofit organization, about 6 months ago, had their bank contact them and say, because of the stances you're taking on various pro-life, pro-family, pro-religious freedom issues, we're going to cancel you. And in that case, this particular nonprofit had a very dear friend in a massive nonprofit, one of the biggest in the world, that called the bank and said, if you cancel them, we're taking our business elsewhere. And so that was a protection to this smaller nonprofit. They had, a big gorilla come in and protect them in that case from losing that business. But these are very real threats that Christian business owners, both nonprofit and for profit, have to be mindful of. And we really do encourage you to be looking at the plan B. Doesn't mean you need to go cancel your bank if they may cancel you, but you better have the plan B in case they do cancel you. So
Oh, I
what are
love
you
that.
going to do?
I love that. This is so. What it makes me think about, Shannon, is this idea that some individuals could use cancel culture as a backdoor to impede our religious freedom. Do
Oh,
you see that?
absolutely. Oh, no question. And that's what they're trying to do,
Mm,
right? They're trying to make people afraid. If I stand up for this, if I raise my head above the fray, I'm going to lose my head. I'm going to lose my business. And it is a manipulation of very real concern that a business owner would have. I mean, he's got a family to provide for. He or she has employees they care for. They're providing services in their community. I mean, they've built a business. They obviously don't want to lose it. And so the threat of that, in many cases, is sufficient to make them just be quiet.
yeah, yeah. And what's sad about it is that when we talk about Christian companies, these are some of the most compassionate, some of the
Absolutely.
most generous,
Yes.
and some of the most merciful, philanthropic, service
Engaged in their
community,
communities.
engaged
Absolutely.
community.
Yes.
You know this well. I know companies who are Christian led who have homosexuals on their staff and
Exactly.
their team members who have Muslims who accommodate, who go out of their way. The distinction here is that they do it out of religious conviction. They do that because the
Exactly.
Bible commands us
Exactly.
to love our
Exactly.
neighbor,
Right.
to be kind to the foreigners on our land, and to
Exactly.
it's a Christian. As a matter of
It's
fact,
a Christian conviction and
it's a
value.
Christian conviction and
Absolutely.
values.
Right.
Canceling Christians do not go together.
Right. No, exactly. It's interesting because as believers, we're called to be kind to those we disagree with, but they don't have that same calling, right? And so it doesn't matter how they treat us from their perspective. Their goal is to win. But we as believers want to always exercise grace and truth, both together. And
Amen.
that is a high calling for us. And Jesus always invited people. He didn't force people. He didn't compel people. He invited people to come to him. And we can invite people to join us. We can invite people to become believers and share our faith and that kind of thing. We just can't force them to do that because that violates their conscience.
Ooh, I love it. Listen, I got two more questions for you, Shannon, before I let you go. But real quick, guys, listen, join us on January the 25th, it's a Wednesday. We're going to have this forum on religious freedom with Shannon and her gang. And we're going to continue this conversation, give you more stuff to help you
Yes.
walk out your faith in the
Yes.
marketplace. Wise as a serpent, gentle as dove. Shannon,
Yes.
one question before I do my last question. There are some people who will be saying, well, Patrice, there are some Christians who have taken things too far and
Right.
who have not lived out biblical principles as you portray it. Could you
Right.
speak to that? Because I don't want them thinking that we do not recognize that that does not occur. That doesn't
No, of
give that
course.
does not give them the license. That doesn't give the opposition, the non-Christians, or whatever, the license to blanket all Christians. But
Of
it does happen. Could you speak to that?
No, absolutely. I think, all of us have had experiences where we have engaged with a believer who either was harsh or critical or unchristlike in that way, or who politically maybe did something that just embarrassed us. We thought, oh my goodness, they're going out in the name of Christ and doing some things that just embarrass me. That has happened, I am sure, to every person who is listening to this conversation today. I think the critical thing is that we as believers recognize that we are broken along with the rest of the human race. And that's why we need Jesus. That's why we need his redemption. And he is constantly changing us to make us more like himself. And we just have to respond humbly, acknowledging that we're not always perfect and we don't always do everything right. We're seeking to follow our Savior in everything that we do. And so, if that has happened to one of your listeners, I would just say, I'm so sorry, but we're encouraging you to follow Jesus. And he doesn't do those things. He does speak with grace and truth. And we seek to model his life and his behavior.
Amen. Well said. Well said. My last question for you, Shannon, before I wrap up. I actually lied. I'm going to have a closing statement for you, but my last question for you
Okay.
before I do my last one. How does, you talked about it, remind us again. So I'm listening and watching, I'm saying, wow, I like this guy, Shannon. I want to be a part of this thing called CEA.
Yes.
So tie this down to what are things that you do to protect me as a business owner,
Right.
that to really to walk this thing out. What does that look
Absolutely.
like? What else would it, how do I, what does it look like to get your support?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the two major things that we are really focused on, Patrice, is being the voice of the Christian business owner, being your voice in policy in the media, and giving you a voice. So when it comes to Capitol Hill, I can go do a meeting on Capitol Hill with a member of Congress, but when I can then tie back to that business owner in the States and say, hey, I'm meeting with your member on Tuesday, anything on your heart or mind you want me to share, and then follow up with that business owner, we're creating this connection of giving them a voice and being their voice. So that's one of the main things that we are focused on in 2023. The second thing is the legal protection that we provide for our members on things like the abortion, abortifacient issue, on transgender health care. So those are two major things that we do for you. We seek, as you know, to keep our members informed. And so I do a weekly email just to keep people informed about what is happening that they might need to be alert to. Um, and the final thing I'll mention, because my board would want me to make sure and mention this, is that one of the other major things that we do is we have a health care plan called Covenant Choice that
Mhm.
is a values based healthcare plan. It is a full blown health policy, so it covers your health care, your prescription coverage, all of your administrative coverage that you would need as a Christian business owner. And we are able to serve businesses with 25 or more employees. We started out with 100 or more employees, but we've expanded that program. This provides a transparent, values based, competitive healthcare plan for Christian business owners who might be looking to live out their faith in the provision of health care to their employees.
I love it. So legal protection, a voice or an advocate,
Hmm.
and resource such as this healthcare plan.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
But I added one more that I think as a member that I think you do that I want people to know: equipping and connection. That's what
Mm,
your annual conference does,
yes.
right? When I go
Yes, sir.
there, I walk away being equipped, and I'm connected with other like-minded believers
Yes.
who are fighting the same fight as I am.
Right.
And
You don't feel
we're all
alone.
battling to get. I don't feel alone. I don't
Exactly.
feel alone.
And that's really important for people to realize that it's one of the things that brought me here, Patrice, the deep sense of conviction that the corporate left is changing America through corporations, the Fortune 500. And I just had this deep sense of conviction that there are way more of us as Christian business people, as Christian engaged people, than there are of them. If
Amen.
only our people will unite, be equipped, and be engaged. We can win these challenges and these battles when we come together, uniting for impact. And that's what CEA wants to do. We want to unite you with other believers for the greatest impact.
You heard it here, Shannon Royce. Listen, Shannon, don't leave yet because I do want you to say a word of encouragement to our people around the world. Before you do, listen, Shannon will be back with me on January 25th. We're gonna do this forum. It's gonna be live, virtual. You're gonna get to ask questions of Shannon and the panel. You'll hear me ask them questions. Um, Shannon, good friend. What's his name, Shannon?
Nathan
He'll do a
Estreth,
talk. Nathan Esther will
Nathan
do a
Estreth,
talk.
and Al
Uh,
Caperna, who
Al
is so dear.
Caperna and Carlos, they're going to be there.
Yes.
It's going to be a fun time. You're also going to connect with other entrepreneurs from around the world,
Mm.
entrepreneurs who are walking out their faith in the marketplace. So you want to come join us January 5th. Go ahead and sign up right now and reserve your slot so you can be a part of it. Now, if you want to know more about Shannon and her organization, where's your website? Where do they go?
ChristianEmployersAlliance.org. Just straightforward
All
our
right.
name.org. ChristianEmployersAlliance.org will provide you more information, an easy way for you to join if you want to join us. And Patrice, our dues are extremely reasonable. For the small employer under six or under 50 employees, it's only $600 a year. You can pay that out monthly. And for our largest employers, it's only $4,500 a year. So it's a sliding scale based on your number of employees. We would be so delighted to have you join us and be able to serve you as CEA members.
And there's going to be more information on our blog about this. You can just click there and join them. Visit us at nehemiahecommunity.com, nehemiahecommunity.com. There you'll find various resources, this one and others, about how to become a part. If you want to know about a training program, a coaching program, whatever it is, it's right there as well. And of
Mhm.
course, if you want to become a part of CEA. Listen, if you enjoyed this podcast, I want you to do me one favor, share it. Friends share with friends,
Mm.
right? Share it. Share it with people, entrepreneurs, individuals who are trying to be intentional in the marketplace with their businesses. Don't wait till they get in trouble. Share it now because they need to know
Yes.
about
Yes.
Shannon, and they
Yes.
need to know about CEA. They need to know that they don't have to be out there alone.
Mm.
Share it with them. Also, I want to encourage you to like us, follow us, and of course, like and follow our friend as well. Shannon,
Mm.
before we leave, um, there are people around the world who right now they're under such pressure: cancel
Mm.
culture,
Mhm.
inflation, political debacle,
Mhm.
war in Ukraine. What would you say to encourage them today as they're wondering, are we going to make it?
I think we always have to keep an eternal perspective, Patrice. We are living in God's narrative. I think it's really easy to get distracted at times by everyday life and all the pressures that we are experiencing. But if we step back as believers and remember that there is an eternal narrative taking place that started with God and Christ and the Holy Spirit in the beginning and will move to the close when we're all called to be with the Lord, right? We are walking out in faithfulness this moment that we're living in. The verse that we used in our fall summit, appointed for the journey, actually said that He placed us at this time in history. He knows our appointed time in history. Anyone listening today, God chose you to live today. God appointed you to live today. He will equip us to be faithful to His call in our lives if we just yield ourselves to Him and trust Him. And that's what we're doing.
Good word. You have poise, you have smart, you have grace, and you have spine. That's leadership.
Thank you.
Shannon, thank you so much. Listen, join us on January 25th. Follow Shannon, visit our website, get more information on how to engage. Let me pray for you.
Thank you.
May the Lord bless you. May the Lord enable you to walk out the call that you have for Him in the marketplace. And do it in such a way that one day you will hear those wonderful words. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. He'll now make you rule over much. God bless you. Thank you for listening and watching. Shannon, thank you so much. Love you, dear.
Thank you. Take care.